Today's mindful moment. Have you ever looked at a tapestry? And I mean, like, really looked at a tapestry and just wondered how something so intricate and beautiful could be made
Right.
from simple threads. It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is.
And, well, today's deep dive takes us into the world of biology,
Oh.
where we'll be uncovering some, like, similarly intricate patterns, but instead of threads, we're talking about genes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so we're exploring Erwin Schrödinger's book, What is Life?
Okay.
Which dared to look at biology through the lens of physics.
It's fascinating because Schrödinger wasn't afraid to, step outside his field of expertise. He's a physicist.
Yeah, Nobel laureate.
Yeah, but he had this, burning curiosity about the fundamental nature of life.
Right.
He wanted to know if the laws of physics, which, govern the behavior of matter and energy, could also explain the mysteries of living organisms.
So instead of, dissecting frogs or peering through microscopes, he's tackling life with equations and principles of physics. That's a unique approach for sure.
Yeah.
So where does he even, start with this?
Well, Schrödinger began with the assumption that living organisms must rely on the statistical laws of physics to function in such a precise and predictable way.
Right.
He figured that with the vast number of atoms present in even the smallest organism, these laws would average out any randomness, leading to predictable behavior.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like if you flip a coin 1,000 times, you'd expect to get roughly 500 heads and 500 tails.
Right.
The more times you flip, the closer you get to that perfect balance.
Exactly.
Is that kind of what he was getting at?
Exactly. He thought the sheer number of atoms involved would smooth out any unpredictable behavior.
Okay.
But this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
He ran into a problem when he started thinking about genes.
Ah, genes. The blueprints of life.
Yeah.
But what problem did he find with genes?
Well, at the time, scientists knew genes were responsible for inheritance, passing traits from one generation to the next.
Right.
And they knew that genes must be incredibly stable to preserve those traits over time.
Yeah.
However, they didn't know the physical size of a gene.
Okay, so size matters in this case.
Absolutely. Size matters a lot in this case.
Yeah.
Schrödinger, using his physics background, calculated that for genes to operate with the kind of predictability he expected based on statistical laws, they would have to be pretty large, composed of billions of atoms. But the shocking truth is that genes turned out to be far smaller than anyone imagined.
Really?
They contained only about 1 million atoms.
Wow.
Which is nowhere near enough to rely solely on those statistical laws for stability.
Wait, so these tiny structures hold the blueprint for an entire organism?
Yeah.
It seems like there wouldn't be enough information there.
Right.
How could something so small and seemingly fragile be responsible for such complex processes and remain stable over generations?
That's where quantum mechanics enters the picture. You see, quantum mechanics governs the behavior of matter at the atomic and subatomic levels, and it has some very different rules compared to the physics we experience in our everyday world.
Quantum mechanics. Isn't that the one with the cat that's both alive and dead at the same time?
You're thinking of Schrödinger's famous thought experiment, Schrödinger's cat.
Right.
But yes, quantum mechanics is full of mind-bending concepts.
I bet.
And one of those concepts is the idea of quantized energy levels.
Okay.
Is what helps explain how genes can be so stable despite their small size.
All right. Break this down for me.
Okay.
What are quantized energy levels?
Okay.
And how do they apply to something like a gene?
Imagine a staircase where you can only stand on the steps, not in between.
Okay.
You can jump up or down to another step. We call that a quantum jump. But you can't just hover somewhere in the middle.
Okay, I'm picturing that.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the energy of atoms in a gene is also quantized?
Yes.
They can only exist at specific energy levels.
This is crucial because it means that even though genes are tiny and constantly jostled by the random motion of atoms, their structure remains incredibly stable.
Okay.
It takes a significant amount of energy to cause a quantum jump to a different energy level and change the structure of a gene.
Okay.
That's what happens during a mutation.
So mutations are rare.
Yeah.
Because it's like trying to force someone to jump several steps at once on that staircase.
Yes.
It takes a lot of energy.
Exactly.
Okay, that explains the permanence. But I remember reading that another physicist was involved here.
Yes.
Someone named Delbruck, right?
Yes, Max Delbruck.
Okay.
Another brilliant physicist who was captivated by Schrödinger's book.
Wow.
He proposed a model for the structure of a gene that fit perfectly with these principles of quantum mechanics.
I love a good model.
Yeah.
What did Delbruck envision?
He imagined a gene as a periodic crystal.
Okay.
Think of a regular crystal like a diamond, which has a very ordered, repeating structure. And a periodic crystal, however, while still possessing a solid structure, has a more complex and irregular arrangement of atoms.
Okay.
You think of it like that tapestry we talked about earlier, with threads coming together in a complex, non-repeating pattern.
Okay. And a periodic crystal, that's a unique way to picture a gene.
Yeah.
So how does this model help explain mutations?
Well, imagine a slight shift in the arrangement of atoms within this periodic crystal.
Okay.
That shift, that change in configuration, could represent a mutation, a sudden discrete change, much like a quantum jump.
I see. So genes are like these tiny stable structures, almost like miniature crystals, holding the blueprint for an entire organism.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But now I have even more questions.
Okay.
How does a gene actually do anything?
Yeah.
How does this blueprint translate into building and running a living organism?
That's where things get even more intriguing, and we'll dive into that right after this quick message.
This episode of The Deep Dive is brought to you by Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. A series of AI-narrated meditations designed to feed your intellect and challenge conventional wisdom.
Yes.
Each bite-sized episode is packed with thought-provoking ideas, surprising facts, and insightful analysis, all designed to spark your curiosity and expand your understanding of the world.
Yes, and if you're enjoying our exploration of Schrödinger's What is Life, you'll love Mindful Moments.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a deep dive for your mind, offering a refreshing perspective on everything from science and philosophy to history and art,
Wow.
all in under 20 minutes.
That's great.
Yeah?
So if you're ready to nourish your mind on the go, check out Mindful Moments via the link in the show notes. Trust me, you won't regret it. Now let's get back to our deep dive into the fascinating world of genes and life itself. Where were we?
Yeah.
Yes. How do genes actually work?
To understand how genes work, Schrödinger had to tackle a fundamental principle of physics entropy.
Entropy. I vaguely remember that from my physics class.
Yeah.
It had something to do with disorder, right?
You got it. Entropy is a measure of disorder or randomness in a system. The second law of thermodynamics states that in an isolated system, entropy always increases over time. Imagine a neat, organized room. It naturally tends to get messier and more chaotic unless you put in energy to tidy up. That's entropy in action.
So you're saying that everything in the universe is constantly moving towards more disorder. That's kind of a bleak thought.
Yeah.
Does this tendency towards disorder apply to living things too?
It does. Living organisms are constantly breaking down complex molecules into simpler ones, releasing energy and increasing entropy in the process. It's a fundamental law of nature.
But wait, if everything is always moving toward disorder, how do living things maintain their complex structure and order? Shouldn't they just fall apart?
That's what's so amazing about life. Living organisms aren't isolated systems. They constantly interact with their environment, taking in energy and matter to maintain their order. Schrödinger actually coined a brilliant phrase for this. Life feeds on negative entropy.
Negative entropy. It sounds like something out of a science fiction novel. What does that even mean?
It might sound strange, but it's a powerful concept. What Schrödinger meant is that life takes in highly ordered forms of energy and matter from its surroundings. Think food, sunlight, and so on. This allows organisms to decrease their own internal entropy and maintain that complex structure, even though they are constantly generating entropy internally. It's like that messy room receiving regular deliveries of cleaning supplies and organizers to keep the chaos at bay.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like life is continually sucking orderliness from its environment to combat the natural tendency toward disorder. But how do genes fit into this picture?
Well, Schrödinger proposed that genes, those tiny aperiodic crystals we discussed, contain the instructions for building and maintaining this orderliness within an organism. He saw genes as a code script, a set of instructions guiding the organism's development and function, allowing it to fight back against the relentless tide of entropy.
So genes are like the ultimate organizers, the masterminds behind life's intricate tapestry, constantly working to maintain order. But this all raises an even bigger question for me. How did this remarkable system, this ability to create order from order, even come about in the first place?
That's where Schrödinger's ideas push the boundaries of conventional science. He speculated that life might be doing something truly extraordinary, something that seems to contradict the typical laws of physics.
Okay, this is where it gets really mind-blowing. What was he suggesting?
He proposed that life operates on a principle of order from order. This contrasts starkly with the order from disorder principle that governs the non-living world. It's almost as if life has found a loophole, a way to bend the rules of physics, to defy the natural tendency towards chaos and create even more order from existing order.
Wow, that's a radical idea. You're telling me life isn't just maintaining order, it's actively creating more of it. But how's that even possible?
That's a question that continues to puzzle scientists to this day. Schrödinger didn't have all the answers, but he offered some tantalizing clues. He pointed to the unique nature of quantum mechanics, with its peculiar rules that govern the subatomic world, as a potential source of this order from order principle.
Quantum mechanics again. It seems like every time we dive deeper into the mysteries of life, we bump into this mind-boggling branch of physics.
It's true. Quantum mechanics appears to play a fundamental role in understanding life at its most basic level. Schrödinger was a pioneer in recognizing this profound connection.
So we've got these incredibly stable genes, these tiny crystals of order holding the blueprint for life, and somehow orchestrating the creation of even more order from the order already present. It's amazing. But how does this relate to the process of evolution? Where does Darwin's theory of natural selection fit in?
That's where Schrödinger's later reflections on Darwinian evolution come in. He acknowledged the vital role of random mutations in providing the raw material for evolution, the variations that natural selection can act upon. However, he also emphasized the critical influence of an organism's behavior in shaping the direction of evolution.
Behavior. You mean the way an organism acts and interacts with its environment? I always thought Darwinian evolution was all about random mutations and the survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
How does behavior play a role?
It's true that natural selection plays a key role, but Schrödinger argued that behavior, while not directly inherited in the same way as genes, can significantly influence which mutations are favored or eliminated by natural selection. He pointed out that even simple organisms can respond to their environment in ways that change the selective pressures they experience.
So you're saying that an organism's behavior can actually influence the course of its own evolution. Can you give me an example of that?
Imagine a plant species growing in a shady environment. If a mutation arises that causes some plants to grow taller, allowing them to reach more sunlight, that mutation will be advantageous. Those taller plants will thrive and reproduce more successfully, passing the mutation on to their offspring. The plant's behavior, its inherent tendency to grow towards light, has effectively guided its own evolutionary path.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It means evolution isn't just a passive process of random mutations being sifted by natural selection. It's a dynamic interplay between genes' behavior and the environment.
Exactly. And this leads us to one of Schrödinger's most thought-provoking warnings. He was concerned that modern society, with its emphasis on comfort and security, might actually be hindering the very processes that drive evolution.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. You're saying Schrödinger was worried that by protecting ourselves from the harsh realities of natural selection, we might be unintentionally putting the brakes on our own evolution. Like those insects that stopped evolving because their hard exoskeletons shielded them from environmental pressures.
You got it. He was concerned that by shielding ourselves from the challenges of nature, we might be losing the very selective pressures that drive adaptation and innovation. Sobering thought.
It really is. It makes you wonder about the long-term consequences of our modern lifestyle and the choices we make. But before we get too deep into that rabbit hole, I think it's time for another quick message from our sponsor. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Before we went to that message, we were talking about how our modern lifestyle might be hindering our evolution.
It's a fascinating concept, right? Schrödinger believed that hardship and struggle, while not exactly enjoyable, were essential for progress, both for individuals and for species as a whole.
Right.
He actually said that missing the path to perfection was one of the greatest dangers facing humanity.
Missing the path to perfection.
Yeah,
That's a little ominous. What do you mean by that?
Well, Schrödinger was concerned that by becoming too comfortable and complacent, in our modern world, that we might lose that inherent drive to strive and to innovate.
Yeah, to push ourselves.
Exactly.
Right.
He saw this potential for stagnation as a threat, not just to our physical evolution, but to our intellectual and cultural development, too.
So it's not just about physical traits, it's about our minds and our creative spirit as well.
Exactly. Schrödinger believed that evolution wasn't just about survival of the fittest.
Right.
It was about progress, about reaching new heights of complexity and understanding. And he worried that by being too focused on comfort and security, we might be sacrificing our potential for growth and evolution on every level.
It makes you wonder if we're doomed to stagnate. So is there anything we can do to get back on this path to perfection?
Well, Schrödinger was an optimist.
Okay.
And he believed that we have the power to choose our destiny. He said our intelligence gives us this unique advantage, the ability to consciously choose the challenges we face.
Okay.
We don't just have to rely on natural selection.
So instead of avoiding hardship and just trying to be comfortable, we should embrace challenges. Push ourselves
Not necessarily embrace hardship just for the sake of it, but we should be willing to step outside our comfort zones, take risks, and do things that require effort and ingenuity.
Right.
Schrödinger thought that was the key to unlocking our potential both individually and as a species.
It makes me think about the way we educate children and the way we structure our work lives. Maybe we focus too much on making things easy and risk-free.
That's a good question. It's worth thinking about. Schrödinger urged us to find ways to introduce meaningful challenges into our lives, create environments that foster creativity, innovation, and a healthy dose of competition.
Yeah.
He thought this was critical for progress and evolution.
Schrödinger's ideas are definitely making us think differently about things. It's like he's asking us to rethink our whole approach to life and progress.
He is. And some of his ideas might seem controversial, but they
Yeah.
do make you realize that evolution is ongoing and we can play a part in shaping it.
This has been a pretty intense deep dive.
Yeah.
We've gone from the quantum mechanics of genes to like the philosophy of entropy and even the downsides of modern society.
It has been quite a journey.
Schrödinger's What is Life is a truly amazing book with ideas that we're still thinking about today.
Absolutely.
If you want to explore these ideas further, we really recommend checking out Schrödinger's book. And for more mind-blowing content, don't forget to check out Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go.
Yeah, you can find a link in the show notes.
Mindful Moments is full of bite-sized episodes like mini deep dives into science, philosophy, history, and art.
It's perfect for keeping your mind active while on the go.
And make sure to subscribe to the deep dive so you don't miss out on our next adventure in knowledge. Until then, keep those brains buzzing.